Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Dumas-Kuhler, and I am with my friend and colleague, Kimberly Jacobson.
Good morning, everyone.
Kim's an attorney in the legal division, and we today are going to be bringing you the second part of the three-part series of webinars that the Commission is offering that relate to issues that surround distance learning as it relates to disability, which is what we'll be talking about this week. And next week, we'll be talking about race, color, national origin, and poverty. And so for this week, we are going to have the same speakers as we had last week, but we're really going to do a much deeper dive into some of the issues potentially surrounding distance learning and children who have already received special accommodations at school for disabilities, and essentially what outreach you may need from the Department of Education or CHRO, or you're advocating for yourself within your own school system, and really just an opportunity to ask questions of our two great guests, who are Brian Klimkowitz and Stephen Prophet. Brian is from the Department of Education, the State Department of Education, and Stephen is from CHRO. Just so everybody is aware, we're going to have our speakers talk for a period of time, and then after they are done giving their presentation, then we're going to do questions. And so the questions will need to be typed into our questions box, and then we will offer them up live, and hopefully you can receive answers. If you do not get answers to your questions today, or you have questions that come up after today, there's a lot of avenues that you can use in order to get your questions answered. First and foremost, you can contact the speakers directly, who will give you their contact information. But if you feel it's something that needs to be explored with the Commission, our role is to enforce the civil rights statutes in the state of Connecticut, and to hopefully eliminate discrimination, which is in our mission statement. And we have jurisdiction over the school systems, the public school systems, anything that is receiving federal funding or state funding. So please use the Commission as a resource. We can be reached on our website, which is www.ct.gov/CHRO. There is a COVID-19 tab on the front page of our website, which you can go to and click on to get the information that's going to be presented here today, and also just general information about the agency, what we're doing, and other resources from other types of entities. You can also receive or get direct help if you contact the CHRO questions line, which there's a link to there. It's an email which you can write your questions to, or you can call our telephone number, which is 860-541-3428, if you have questions related to discrimination and COVID, or just any questions at all as it relates to discrimination.
And I think folks should just know that even though we're in the middle of tough times, that the CHRO is still open for business. We are still taking complaints. We're doing that primarily on the phone or via video conferencing. We're still doing mediations. Fact findings are still going on. The Commission's work is still going on. A lot of us are working remotely, as you can see. I'm in my home right now. But we're open for business, so if people feel they're being discriminated against, they shouldn't shy away from contacting us.
So without further ado, we would like to get to our two speakers for today, who are going to introduce themselves again for those of you who were not in our meeting our webinar last week. And then they are going to give their presentation with hopefully some slides to go along that too. So as I said earlier, our speakers are Brian Klimkowitz, who is the Special Education Division Director at the State Department of Education, and Stephen Prophet, who is the Director for Special Education Programs and Instructional Design at CHRO. Brian and Stephen, good morning.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, great. And Brian, are you there too? I sent Spencer the slides. So he's going to pull up the slides.
Okay, perfect. And he can share them from his desktop?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay. Yeah, great. So is Brian on?
I don't see him. Let me just see if I can, we can get him on.
In the meantime, I can share with you. Should I continue talking?
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Great. Good morning, everyone. It's so great to be back here with Brian Klimkowitz. We wanted, based on last week's webinar, we also wanted to share with you how collaborative the State Department of Ed has been with external agencies such as the Regional Education Service Center, the Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center, and the State Education Resource Center around supports, resources, and materials to support educators and families who have with children with disabilities, and along with other vulnerable groups of students that really require greater access to support their distance or online learning. So we wanted to share with you some very critical websites that are on CERC, Cpac, and the RESC Alliance that our families and educators should be accessing for supports and additional information. So the State Department of Ed has worked diligently to ensure that all of our parents, educators are getting as much information to support them and their children at home during this pandemic. Okay, so Spencer, can you just put up the first slide? Hello?
Let's see if that can go up. I know Spencer is listening in.
Yes, I sent Spencer the slides.
Okay, perfect.
Great. So the first slides I'm going to share with you are some resources, once Spencer gets them up, from the State Department of Education. They've worked really hard to really organize a very coordinated and repository of materials and resources to support educators and families. So I wanted to show this first website with you. Will Spencer be able to open up the link?
Yeah, it looks like the first one is up there, yeah.
Yeah. So hey, Spencer, you can go to the next one and just open up that link. Yeah, Michelle, Brian can see the slides.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to that.
Yeah. So Brian, once goes to the next one. Great. If Brian can, he can open up the first link. This is actually just rolled out. It's a series. Open up, hopefully.
And we'll put this presentation on our website so people can view it also when the webinar is over.
Great.
It'll be under this webinar under the COVID-19 tab.
Perfect. So the first link really organizes all of the COVID-19 resources for families, educators around special education, distance learning, best practices, executive orders, critical updates. So that really is a very well-developed, organized repository of information. If he can even just go down to the third one, this just in very close collaboration with the State Department of Education and the private approved placements, they've developed these series of webinars to support our parents and caregivers for students with high needs. Okay, that's the first one. Great. So these are all organized in a very all around early childhood, guidance for English learners, social emotional learning, best practices, and if he scrolls down, families. But if he can go to the third, Spencer, if you can go to the third link, that would even be better. Because this is some additional parent resources that were just rolled out.
So I think the first page, third link.
Yeah. So you can see all different resources, but I wanted to just have them, so if he can get out of that link. Okay. So a series of webinars in collaboration, right? So these are all different resources for families to support their children at home. And then the third link on this particular page are some real good webinars to support our families and caregivers with our high need students that we know is a very vulnerable population, and they have some more challenges than others in accessing their online or distance learning. So these are some great opportunities for parents to help support them. So you'll see some real good professional support series for families that the State Department of Ed has done a dynamic job in developing. We just want to ensure that our families and our educators are accessing these resources. So we're doing a lot of, social media blasts. We have them up on our website just to ensure that parents have a go-to place to see these resources. Okay.
Hi, Steve, it's Brian. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. Hi, Michelle.
Great. Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to hear your voice.
Same here. Yeah, good to hear you as well. I'm having a little bit of audio difficulties through the Teams system, so I do apologize. I hear the audio feed live now, but the visuals is a little off. So I'm just going to participate at least so I can hear live what's happening and then add in. And sorry to interrupt, Steve.
No
but
problem.
Just wanted to make sure everyone knew that I was here and able to answer questions. And just overall, and Steve, I wanted to thank you, for putting these slides and resources together. As Steve mentioned, we really, one of our goals is just to be able to reach out to families across the state. And we have a few different resources to be able to do that. One is obvious through our school districts and disseminating information to our schools and through the parents that they serve their students. We also reach out to the Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center, and that has vast listservs to be able to reach out to families. And we're always brainstorming around ways and strategies to reach families that aren't within those networks or perhaps don't have the resources or the technology to be able to access some of this information. So with CHRO, with your support, we really would like to, just help disseminate this information, help to clear up any misinformation or myth busting, as we like to say, around the processes and procedures. And just a couple of quick notes. I did want to reach out and wish everyone well, obviously, during this challenging time. I hope everyone is navigating the situation the best that we can. And really wanted to just give a shout out to our teachers. Today, as you may or may not know, is Teacher Appreciation Day. And we really wanted to just on behalf of CERC and the State Department of Education, thank all of our teachers for the work that they're doing in this very particularly challenging school year for all of our teachers. So thanks for the work that they're doing. And our goal and our mission, it continues to be safety first, working with schools and districts to help them understand and meet parents where they are right now and meet students where they are. And that takes a coordinated effort and a sustained effort around communication and around flexibility within, previous structures that we've had in place. And then the third area is we've made an effort to help districts document their efforts to be able to provide the supports and services that students with disabilities require as a right that they have under IDEA or under Section 504 of the ADA. So we have ongoing efforts to do that. But just wanted to say those quick things, and we can flip back or turn back to the resources that we have in place. And as Steve mentioned, the resources are wonderful. We always try to make sure, I know sometimes websites can be difficult to navigate. So I think these links will be helpful to the participants and viewers to be able to get directly to the information that's most pertinent. And then we can clarify or if there are areas that we haven't addressed yet within our resources or supports, then we certainly want to meet the needs of parents to be able to provide them and our educators. And we're working closely with them to be able to do that.
Sounds great. Thanks, Brian. I don't know if you want to continue. It looks like Spencer's continuing through your slide deck if you'd like to go continue through it.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. If you can go to the second slide again. The last link just really was rolled out in the Bureau Bulletin. That's been done very closely with for our high need students. These are some great professional learning series of webinars to support our parents and caregivers for students with high needs. Right there, if you can just pull that up, Spencer, just so I can share with the audience. The third link. Yeah. And some of this has already been, it's on the Cpac website as well, which I'll share with you that website. So there's some really, there's 4 excellent websites to support really the needs of our families and educators during this crisis. Okay. Let's see. Here it comes.
Mm-hmm.
I figured out how Teams works now.
You have to share that with me later.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the nice aspects of this resource as this is coming up is that it's a 10-part series. And so the collaborative efforts that went into this resource, again, we wanted to create a one-stop shopping for parents that have students that have higher needs, as mentioned in the title. There's a table of contents within the resource. It's a fairly long document, but each of the videos are short. There's an overview of the initial video to describe what the resource is, and then each of the following 9 webinars are much shorter, 5-minute segments, that just described and overview each of the sections of the table of contents. So it's really great. It's the amount of work and preparation and planning that went into this resource. It couldn't be done by one organization alone. It really took all hands on deck, and we really appreciate the efforts that went into this. And like Steve mentioned earlier, we just want to make sure that parents are aware of this resource and tap into. And you know, another aspect of what we wanted to talk about today is there's so many great things happening out across the state, from parents with strategies and tips that they're employing in their own homes, with districts around relationships, around resources, and around reassurance, you know, that we're all in this together, and to be able to get through some of these difficult moments together as a community. So we have a website called ct.bestpractices.gov, where individuals or schools can share their best practice strategies around some of these topics. And we will absolutely share that resource with you as well, because we know that some amazing practices can be happening in the next town, and we want to be able to share that across multiple districts and multiple towns, and we can serve as as Steve mentioned, a website or a resource for one-stop shopping for that specific information.
Yes, Brian, on the first link, because you probably couldn't hear when I started, is the first link on this State Department of Ed slide is the updated website with the best practices on it. So that best practices link. So all of that is there. So they have that on this slide. So obviously, you'll see the link there at the bottom. So for our participants, if you click on that link, when the slides are sent to you or they're uploaded to this webinar, that's the exact resource guide and webinar series that Brian just related and discussed with the participants. All right, so Spencer, you want to just move on to the other ones? The next slide. Oh, here it is. Good, he opened it up. Good. So this is it. All the presentations. Wow, this was really very, very well done. And also, Brian, I've shared this with teachers because the teachers can learn a lot. The teachers who teach this population of students can learn so much from this webinar series.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Steve. Even though our tabs on our website say resources for a professional series for parents, professional series for educators, we absolutely encourage both stakeholder groups to view and tap into those resources, because there's absolute benefit and overlap in the information. So that's a great point, Steve.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Spencer, thank you so much for this. If you can move on to the next slide. Great. So the slide that's, okay, this is the Cpac slide. Great. Okay, this is the CERC slide. At the very beginning of the pandemic, the Bureau of Special Ed, specifically Tom Boudreau, who oversees our accessible educational materials assistive technology initiative at the State Department of Ed, asked CERC to begin to develop a curated list of resources to support online learning and other resources. This is continually added to and built on weekly. There are blogs on this website. There are all different activities for students, accessible texts and stories, different types of parent resources, resources for students with disabilities, family emergency. it's almost like a one-stop shopping resource as well. And it's in many cases there's videos on there, interactive. So it's just another resource that we use and that's on our library website. So we encourage our families to visit our website, our educators to visit our website as well, to get some of these accessible resources and supports to assist with students with disabilities. Okay. So so you just click on each of the blue tabs and there's a wealth of information. Interactive tools, digital tools. So I encourage families and educators to access these websites. Okay, Spencer, you can move on to the next slide. So as I shared at the very beginning, Brian Klimkowitz leads our department, our Bureau of Special Education department. He's really engaged CHRO, Cpac, and the RESC Alliance in really ensuring a very collaborative, focused, targeted effort to support our educators and families. So our next agency would be Cpac. So Spencer, if you can just move to the next slide, that'd be great. Cpac has, Cpac also has redesigned their website a bit, and now you'll see when parents can go to Cpac, they can actually schedule some phone conferences with some of their consultants for any support or technical assistance. CHRO is doing the same thing. We've developed, we're developing a support to our families that if they need to access information or need some support with some problem solving for their children at home, or to help them through some of the rough spots, we will have consultants be on the lookout for a marketing blast where CHRO consultants will help support our families when they call in. So we are setting that up. Just as an additional, face-to-face or phone conference type of a resource that some of our parents could benefit from. Cpac.
Steve, you still there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm just waiting for the next slide to come up.
Okay.
We got CHRO, then we just have two more slides. Cpac and the RESC Alliance, two great
and I see RESC Alliance. Perfect.
Coming up, great. All right, so while the slide is coming up, Cpac is the Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center, and Jane Hampton-Smith is our interim executive director, and Cpac has been very engaged with the State Department of Education to provide supports and resources to our parents and families and caregivers of children with disabilities. So they've worked really closely with the State Department of Ed under Brian's direction to provide some really good resources and support. So many of what you'll see there on that website, many of the resources that we shared from the State Department of Ed are linked right to the State Department are linked right to Cpac. So I would encourage our families and educators to really visit the Cpac website. It's full of great materials and resources to support our parents of children with IEPs. Is there any other thoughts on that, Brian?
Yeah, no, I think it's really helpful to be able to share these resources, Steve. And I know, and Michelle had mentioned that there are, perhaps questions from participants or questions that we can help answer.
Right.
I'm just proud to be part of the collaborative effort of what's going on in, my second point overall this morning, talking about meeting parents and students where they are. We know how difficult this is right now. We know how difficult it is that the school buildings are closed. We know how difficult it is that students aren't able to have direct contact with their teachers who care for them so much and care for their education. And as I mentioned earlier, there's been some really creative efforts to be able to connect with families and with students. And, we continue to emphasize communication and safety, obviously, number one. But, those efforts cannot go, we can't emphasize that enough. And, we've heard from Cpac, from parents that are concerned that they're not doing enough in the home, that they're having challenges and that they're unable, they maybe aren't trained or don't understand the work. I know I'm struggling with my own children's work in the home to be able to support their work. So there's just different components and aspects that we're aware of, and we don't want to make light of the fact that this is an easy challenge that we're doing, moving from schools to the distance learning. We know that school closures have been extended, and this has certainly impacted our state and the whole country. So, besides the resources that Steve has pointed out to you this morning, we also continue to work on guidance around processes and procedures that have been interrupted because of either availability of staff or capacity of parents and staff, or just because of having difficulty accessing the necessary information that needs to be put in place. But our responsibilities and our practices at the State Department remain even during school closures. I mentioned last week, just to highlight again, I know you mentioned that the CHRO activities were in place regarding complaints and mediations and so forth, and the due process unit at the State Department is also open and operational. We're really reaching out and being proactive in trying to understand the issues the new issues that parents and students are facing and educators are facing, really, in the implementation of IEPs. Our general monitoring and supervision continues. So we have been collecting data regarding our students that are exiting special education this year, and our early childhood outcomes assessments are still happening, and we are sending guidance out this week around that process. And we want educators to do their best and parents to do their best, but we know there's some practical limitations just depending on the community that they're within and some of the challenges that are being faced within the home, and just the emotional. I don't use this word lightly, but the emotional trauma that some families are facing, given this situation. So I just wanted to put that out there and let you know that we're happy to answer any questions that come up or provide additional information. And more importantly, let everyone know and our participants know that they can reach out to us with questions, with suggestions, or with strategies that have worked for them, either in the home or in schools.
Steve and Brian, this is Kim from the CHRO. I think it's so great that you're putting all these resources up on the internet and that parents and teachers can access them. I was just wondering if maybe there was some examples that you could share. Perhaps I was thinking of a child who has attention deficit disorder who might be on a 504 plan that involves focusing the child or dealing with distractibility, how those kind of things or any kind of disability really is addressed online, when the typical things you would be doing would be to sort of, monitoring that student in person, and probably the distance learning creates more distractibility. So maybe you could just touch on some of the creative or interesting things that you've come across.
Yeah, Kim, thank you for that question. Getting into the specific strategies, we have several resources that have been sent in through best practice strategies. And then we actually have a recorded webinar happening tomorrow where parents are speaking specifically around tips that they've utilized. And one of the areas are for parents of students with special needs. So there's very specific information about creating learning environments in the home, prompting mechanisms within the home, the balance of online materials with physical activities, with breaks, with hands-on materials and hands-on activities to assist students in keeping engaged. And, I've always said that, parents are the _1 educator in a student's career, in a student's life, and in student's education. So, I know parents are able to understand when and where the frustrations are occurring, and then work with the special education teachers and the educators to be able to either put accommodations in place or to structure those breaks so that a student can most effectively access the information that they need. But you're absolutely right, Kim. Those the accommodations that may have been put in place in the classroom may need to be adjusted within the home environment.
And I'd like to just add to what Brian was saying. In the CircLib guide, as well as the RESC Alliance resource that hopefully we can share. Nicole Natali at CREC, she's the AT specialist, was a critical link to really providing some great tools and resources for our teachers, specifically for our kids with attention deficits or learning disabilities. There are some great apps or built-in Google tools that teachers can be using to ensure greater access for the distance learning. So that's our hope, is that our teachers are accessing some of these resources, because there are already some great embedded tools within the Google platform that I would say many of our districts, that's the platform they're using for online teaching. And so Nicole's done a great job in really, along with CERC, to build in some of these accessible tools to help our teachers for our students with disabilities to access their learning. So
thanks for that information.
So Spencer could pull up the RESC Alliance slide. I can just, at least he can open it up and share with you, share with the participants what's available. And even for our parents, there are some great free Google tools, Google apps that our parents can use at home to support their children. If Spencer can just move, because that is an excellent repository that has been developed by the RESC Alliance.
Did you want Spencer to click on the link?
If you can, I can't see this. Can you? All I see right now on my computer screen is Cirque's screen. If you can pull up the Rest Alliance one, share the Rest Alliance one. I think that might be the 4th slide. It's right after Cpac, maybe.
Yeah, I think he's working on that.
Yeah.
I had a quick question too. What have you seen as it relates to children who have more profound disabilities, who may have, either one-on-one paraprofessional support during the day, or who are in special education classes throughout their school day? What have you seen the school districts doing in terms of addressing those learning needs when those children are at home, who would really have a lot of one-on-one support within the school if they were in school?
Yeah, I think, Steve, I'll jump in first and then I'll have you follow up.
Yeah.
We've been having weekly meetings with CAPSEF, which is the organization for approved private special education programs.
Mm-hmm.
And the programs that support those students are typically students with high needs, where their needs where the IEPs that were developed by the planning and placement teams were not able to be implemented within the public school environment.
Right.
So all of those programs have been working diligently to be able to provide supports and students to that population of students. And there are quite some comprehensive programs, including clinical supports and services that are happening remotely, consistent communication with the families. You mentioned the fact that some of these students required one-to-one supports and services in the home. Yeah. Obviously, because of public health restrictions, those types of supports aren't able to be provided, and it's a real challenge. There are students that require that level of support and prompting, perhaps for safety, or perhaps to implement behavioral intervention plans. Mm-hmm. And that right now, parents are doing that in the homes. They're providing that support, to be able to assist students. And there are some population of students that aren't able to access, through screens. That's just not a means by which they're able to receive information. So some of the programs have used alternate strategies around that to be able to provide materials. We're also working with other adult agencies like DCF and DDS and DSS to be able to coordinate some of the activities and supports that the families traditionally would have received outside the pandemic, again, outside the health mandates, and then trying to take some of those safety precautions to ensure that families and the students receive the supports that they're needed. And, school districts are also, public school districts are also using creative strategies to reach out to the students. But again, I can't underestimate the struggles that I think some families are having, and we've heard from some families that are either overwhelmed and unable to work through some of the resources and supports that are provided, or feel as though there is more support that is needed to be able to transform the home into a learning environment for their students.
Right.
Steve, I didn't know if there was anything else that you wanted to add on that.
In speaking with some of the directors, because directors of special education, I know that many of the directors are working really hard to ensure and trying their best to create accessible opportunities for these high need students. So in some of these districts, I know that the BCBAs are really meeting with families as part of their responsibility to provide Zoom or virtual meetings on behavioral strategies that they can use in home with their child or their children who are missing the structure that the school day could provide.
Right.
Most all of our paraeducators are still working. So I know of districts where the paraeducators are joining in on the individual Google Hangout meeting or the Zoom meeting with their special education teacher to support students through music, through maybe a virtual hands-on activity, whatever that may be. But I know that some of our paraeducators are working closely with their special education teachers in these virtual lessons.
Yeah,
That's
and
great.
just
Thanks.
one more quick thing to add. And what we would advise parents is, if they are struggling, or to just maintain communication with their teachers, maintain communication with the schools, reach out to the district administrators. The resources that Steve mentioned today, reach out to us to share, what the challenges are, what the struggles are, and just to let those parents know that they're not alone in their struggles, and that it really will take in a continued coordinated effort to be able to support our students with high needs during this time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you both. I don't see that. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
I don't think the Risk Alliance slide has come up, but that is full of real materials and support for parents and educators to support children at home. There's some great apps, Google apps, that can help support our families as well if they have the technology available to them.
And have you seen that as an issue, by the way, where technology has been part of the hindrance to the this? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm assuming that with so many districts that not everyone is necessarily at the same level, and how is that? Is there state money for that? I know there's not a lot of state money for a lot of stuff, but what are districts to do if the technology and the home is the problem?
I think that they're which I know of some school districts where that's been a challenge for some of our families, where they've had to do some real outreach, just virtually, phone kind of conferencing, phone
right.
lessons, tele lessons, because of the lack of technology. That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Ryan, how about you?
Yeah, sorry, the question, my audio was breaking up a little bit, but I think I understand the overall question of just the differentiation if parents don't have access to Wi-Fi, for example, or technology. I know that's something that I can bring back that information from you from the leadership team. I know there's been coordinated efforts and a lot of philanthropic efforts to be able to provide free Wi-Fi for families, and to be able to increase the, for example, laptops that are being donated and distributed to all students within districts. But again, I know there are, again, practical limitations to some of that, and that takes time to be able to roll out and ensure access. But I know that's a huge concern from the State Department's perspective around equity and access. Those are two issues that we really emphasize in all of our activities to ensure equity and access. And we know there were inequities, prior to COVID-19, and in some circumstances, those are being accentuated now. So there are coordinated efforts, not only from the Department of Education, but all agencies to address some of those issues around technology. And I know we're improving from day to day. One thing that will be sort of thinking about silver lining, in a country or a state going through something like this, is the state of Connecticut will absolutely be more prepared, or better prepared in the future, if God forbid there's a similar outbreak down the line, or coordinated, there's an adjustment needs to be made to deliver virtual supports and services.
Right, and I think that, well, so next week our topic is education and the equity aspects of it. But
Oh,
I
great.
think, yeah, but certainly I would like to have both of you back probably in the fall because,
Sure.
if you don't live under a rock, you know that it seems that there could be the similar struggle coming again to us. We may get some reprieve. So I think it would be interesting to circle back and see when people have some time to prepare, unlike this time, what changes have happened, what success stories are occurring. So you'll be hearing from me again. I don't know that we have any questions. At least I don't see any. Kimberly, do you see any?
No, I don't think there are any questions.
And so, Kim, do you have any other questions you'd like to ask?
No, I just really wanted to thank them both. I think these are really great resources. I think once we get the links up on our website, they'll be really valuable to teachers and educators, and everyone understands this is, a challenge for everyone, but we certainly appreciate the work you're both doing.
Can I just share just two other items?
Absolutely, yes, please.
I want our families to be aware that we'll be hosting some live webinars starting in May through the summer, just to support them so that they're not feeling so overwhelmed and ensuring that they're taking care of themselves, along with just some best practices around learning environments at home, using technology, routines, and expectations, because we're heading into the summer. And now we have children that have been home since March, and now we have a long haul going into the summer. So we will be setting up that as well as some kind of, a support network to support our families. And one other area of a group that I wanted to ensure that we have not forgotten, under Brian's leadership, he's made student voice a high priority. So in collaboration with Brian and CERC, with Nicole Vitale's expertise leading this work, we are hosting a variety of Zoom meetings to touch base with our middle school and high school students. How are they doing? How are they feeling? How are they responding to online learning? These are our students with disabilities. Getting some input from them, just so they are having their voice heard as well. And we're in the process right now of, usually in May, we have a statewide symposium of over 200 plus students at Central Connecticut State University. That has to be canceled, obviously, due to the pandemic. But we're moving forward right now with hosting the keynoter to host 4 virtual kind of mini symposiums for our students across the state. So I think that's going to be exciting for them, which will be taking place in May and June.
And that information's on your website?
That's going to be sent out from CERC. But
Okay,
I think that's an important group that we have to ensure that we're keeping track of our students. Most
important of all, right?
Absolutely.
So. And those webinars, it's so refreshing to hear directly from students, especially in our roles. That's such an important. It helps center our work really to hear directly from the students.
Because they're feeling isolated too, because even our high school students aren't going to be able to work this summer,
right?
Given everything that's happening. So I think there's a lot of fears. There's a lot of emotional challenges that they're experiencing, knowing that they're going to be possibly going into the summer. They're missing their friends, they're missing their possible work experiences. So those are all challenges that we're trying to help them work through Brian's the student youth voice initiative. Okay.
Great. Anything else that either of you would like to add?
No, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Happy Teacher Appreciation Day to all of our teachers, our special educators, our general ed teachers, all of our personnel who are on the front lines working with our students. Congratulations on your important day. Not typically, the day that you normally have. But I will tell you, I've been very, very touched by what our school PTAs have done to support Teacher Appreciation Day across the state. They've done some pretty neat, creative ideas to recognize the teachers in their schools.
Absolutely.
I agree. And just Brian, anything you'd like to add?
Just wanted to thank you, Michelle and Kim, once again for the invite, and just know that we're just a quick email or text or phone call away as issues come up or questions come up. We really appreciate the partnership and in helping us get the message out to parents and educators. And I wish you well in your next series, and look forward to coordinating or collaborating more formally in the fall. But I'll keep you up to date when we have new guidance that comes out in the upcoming weeks, which we do anticipate. So thank you once again for the invite.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you could keep us updated, we will be more than happy to post any information that comes after today to our webinar series on our COVID-19 website, so that is an easy place to go. This slide presentation will be posted there today too. I want to just say again that we are available at the Commission on Human Rights. All of our offices, as Kim said, are up and running, and you can find all of our contact information there. And I will say Happy Teacher Appreciation Day to my sister, Lynn, who is a teacher in Bloomfield. Yes. You have such hard work that you're doing and know you're doing now, and I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.